All right, the final percent is back, and I have my beautiful wife, Cayla Kimball, with me, and we're gonna talk about some interesting things, huh?
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
So we were kind of on a roll with podcasts there for a while, and everything was going well. Everything was exciting, and we were getting some good traction, and life happened. And we were really private about some of the things that we went through until now. We're going to kind of go into it, but what a lot of people keep private, we decided that it was a good idea to actually talk about and see if other people are going through this. And we know other people are going through this, but it just happened in such a way that it derailed everything. So we're going to go into 3 subjects that happened. One very particular one. Number 1, Cayla got pregnant, and we were very excited. It was the happiest I can honestly say I've ever been. And then probably 2 weeks later, the saddest I'd ever been, because we went through a miscarriage. And during that time, one of our closest friends, he had a tragic suicide in the family that was, it's almost unfathomable.
Yeah.
And then we were trying to kind of figure out what the heck are we going to do. And so we tried to go hang out with my parents, who were going through some of their own stuff for 4th of July. And I was on a bicycle, and my handlebars came off at 35 and put me in the hospital pretty good. And so we're rethinking a lot of things right now. But what we realized is, because we are entrepreneurs and we own our own business, as hectic as anything would get, we were always okay because we had the personal stuff figured out. We always had rock solid friendship, and we always had all of these amazing things that we were doing with our friends. And so no matter how bad the entrepreneur onslaught that'll happen when you're trying to build your own business, we were always okay. And that was the first time where we were going through a season that we're expanding, and we're trying to go to new towns, and we're trying to do this, and then life drops all of these things on us.
Yeah, trying to balance not only the business side of things with such a tumultuous personal side was something that I think we have never experienced before, and it was one of the most trying times of our life together.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I think was the hardest is going back just to the beginning, because 2 of the things we can't talk about. Obviously my friend going through with what he went through, and because he's so close to us, it rocked our world. But that's not anything we're going to dive into, because that's not for us to dive into. It's just, as a friend group, something we'd never gone through before. Right,
because we had to be that positive force and rally around him and be strong for him. And so that was also taxing on us as well, because we love him so much. So. And
then my bike accident, it really changed my perspective on just mortality in so many ways. But what we're going to unpack for you is 2 people who are integral in a business and entrepreneurs going through something that for a long time we couldn't. This is actually the first time I've actually talked about it with anybody.
Yeah.
My mom knows about it, but I still have not talked directly with her because it was so hard for me.
Yeah, I took on that battle, and actually we had a wonderful heart-to-heart, and she was very understanding and supportive, and we grew closer because of that. Yeah. So I really, silver lining in that fact. But I haven't really told my friends or most of my family either. I really told my mom, and so speaking, like bringing this to life again is very difficult, and it's rough. I haven't felt this vulnerable on a semi-public forum, probably ever. So
well, so some of the things that I think were very, on my side, very interesting for me was just having all of this weight, this heaviness on your heart, and you're like going through and you're trying to be the motivator, the inspirer, the leader, the manager, idea, whatever, and it's just it's this all encompassing thing you're going through. And then I just I made a huge bonehead thing when we found out at the hospital. I remember literally not being able to say words, and I posted on Facebook, and normally I'm a very positive person, but I posted on Facebook, "This is the worst day of my life," or something very negative, and everybody just started, "What's going on, and what's this, and what's that?" And
Of course, the onslaught of,
well, and it's just interesting because right when I posted something negative, I had more comments than anything, but when I post something positive, it just seemed it's like, oh, Greg's just being positive again.
Yeah,
but
that's an interesting insight.
so that was something that really kind of got to me, because I was just like, well, how come you guys don't, like, hey, thanks for the positive message, but right when there's something negative, it's like, oh, there's a chink in his armor, he's always positive, or there's this, that, and the other. And I just it really, that was so interesting. And then unfortunately, I mean, we had people starting to hit you up saying, what's going on with Greg? And I mean, she's going through more of it than I am because it involves her body as well.
Yeah, I was going through not only the mental aspect, but very much the physical side of it. And having people reach out to me immediately following, finding out the news, and I was not prepared mentally for that. And I kind of broke down, and obviously we removed that from Facebook and learned a very valuable lesson. But
well, and that's the thing that I started realizing is just you have to understand what you're putting out there, and I'm gonna stay consistent with positivity, but something so personal I have to keep inside. But I mean, it's just interesting because it's something that doesn't go away. Right. I mean, we were dealing with doctor bills, and I
actually had another moment yesterday. It's interesting to me how grief works and how it hits you out of nowhere sometimes in the most random times. It's been a few months now since that happened, and I think for the most part we did a wonderful job of trying to learn and grow from it and move on and just kind of process everything. And I thought I was in a much better place. And then yesterday I was calling around just trying to get more information, just with medical bills and all that fun stuff. And one of the nurses responded, "Yeah, I know things can get really crazy right after you have a baby. We totally understand how it goes." And I kind of blacked out after that. I don't even remember what she said. I just kind of zoned out, and I was like, yeah, and then hung up the phone and just immediately stared off and was just thinking to myself, yeah, I was and then wasn't, and that could have been, but it wasn't. And just trying to, I don't know, just took me back to where I was before, and all of the feelings I had, the emotions I had, just everything came rushing over me, and I immediately called you.
Yeah.
I wanted a hug, but I knew you were not with me, so I couldn't get that. So I was like, okay, next best thing is going to be your voice. Yeah. That'll make me feel better. And so I called you immediately, thinking, optimistically that I could just say, hey, casually, like, this is what just happened. I just kind of broke down and lost it and could hardly speak cogent words to you, but you were very sweet and there for me in that moment, which was super helpful. But it's just, like I said, it's interesting that I hadn't even thought about it for a while. Like, so much time had passed, and I thought I had moved on, and it wasn't like the focus of my thoughts. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of hit me like a truck out of nowhere, and I just got flooded with all this wave of emotion again. And it's probably going to be like that for a long time, if not forever, because that is something really deep that we went through together.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, one thing I think that if you do go through that, I mean, stay together. I mean, just really be there for one another. I think that was something that we really galvanized around the other one. It seemed like every time you were weak, I was strong, and every time I was weak, you were strong. So That was great. But the other thing to realize is that, I mean, we realized 25% of pregnancies end in a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a lot more common than I think people realize. And there's a reason why they say wait till week
Like 12-ish.
Before you start telling people.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I would say that would have helped us is, instead of us keeping it so private, the people who are there for you every single day and the people who you work with every single day, you should tell them kind of as soon as you can, just so that they can help you through whether if that unfortunately were to happen again, or if you just you can't do certain things, you have to be aware of certain things. I think in our next one we had talked, because practice does make pregnant. We're not giving up. But we did realize that, it would have been a lot easier if we are really close friends. Now, we're not going to do a Facebook post about it, but
No.
But I can't tell you how hard it is when you're going through when you're trying to lead people. Well, and when I say you, I'm saying that whoever's listening to this, obviously you went through it with me. I don't have to say you. But having to lead people, or the other thing is you realize how trivial certain things can be, and someone will come in and say, oh, this person was saying this, and kind of water cooler talk, and you're sitting there knowing that you just lost a baby. And I just remember it really changed my perspective on so many things, because people would come and talk to me and they'd say this, that, and the other, and I would just be like, are you kidding me? This is what I have to listen to right now.
It also made me a lot more conscious of how I speak to other people, because I know people aren't meaning anything bad by it or trying to be insensitive, but so many times people would come up and say, when's the baby due? And they had no idea. They just know we're young and we're going to start trying soon, right? Or, so what's taking so long, or what's going on? And they just start throwing out all these comments where I don't blame them. They don't know what we're going through. But then I'm sitting there trying not to cry and trying to put on a brave face. And it just really made me think, man, I really need to watch what I say around people, just because, not even just with a miscarriage, you never know what someone else is going through.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be considerate of, if you're trying to jokingly say something or give someone a hard time, you never know if it just happened to them, or if their parents experienced it, or a friend, or whoever. It's just be more conscious of that and just show some compassion, because everyone has their own story and everyone's going through their own things in life. Yeah.
I think that that's a huge thing that people should remember on a daily basis, is that most of the time we don't put the real battles on Facebook.
Right.
Most of the time no one knows what people are actually going through. And I mean, one thing, just going to my crash for a second, is I realized at that moment that, because I very realistically could have died. And I realized that at that moment, if I were to have died at that moment, I would have left a lot of music inside of me. And
a lot of greatness inside of you.
And a lot of memories with my wife. And it's almost like you're looking through the lens of a camera. And things come, and everything's been kind of blurry, but things come in to just a little bit more focus.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened to me. And so, I mean, we're focusing more on each other. We're focusing more on memories. We're absolutely gonna have a baby. We're going after that, and
practice makes baby.
Practice makes baby. But I will say, after watching you go through what you had to go through, because I mean, we had to go, after everything, we had to still go in for the surgery. And I mean, I'm convinced my wife is Superwoman, and with how strong you were, and we basically just promoted you to CEO, and then you found that out, and then you had, this is within your first month of everything that you're going through. And
wow. Yeah. It's been kind of a wild last few months on all fronts, but I mean, I ultimately feel like it's made me a stronger person, a better leader, a more compassionate person, more understanding person. I hope that through my story, I'm able to help inspire and empower other people, not just women, but men as well. And just knowing that there always will be a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how dark it gets, whether it's business, personal, or a combination. There's always a way out.
Yeah. I think having an open relationship with your spouse to where you can say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. I know a lot of men try to be super macho and they're not allowed to cry. If anyone knows me, I cry all the time. I'm a very emotional person. But
And for the record, I love that about you. I'm just saying.
But I think that's one thing that you were so sensitive to that really helped me, is because, I mean, there were so many times where I would lose it and wouldn't want to talk to anybody. I mean, it
hits you at the most random times.
Oh my God. It would just, it would punch me so hard. And then you would be there for me. And then I would feel weird because I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be there for you. And we were just there for each other. But I think you have to understand, just as a man, you're going through that too. And so, like, you hide behind the guise of trying to be macho and be the strong person, and you're not allowed to cry. And I mean, I'm certainly guilty of that, but it was amazing to be able to break down in front of you so many times and have you there for me. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And then just so many, like, all the doctor's visits and crying with our nurse. While she's having the conversation, because we went and got an ultrasound and didn't hear the heartbeat. And so they take us into the other room to tell us what we basically already knew. And while we're having that conversation, we could hear someone else getting an ultrasound, and we could hear the heartbeat of their baby.
While they're laughing and having all this joyous conversation. It was one of the hardest, most awkward moments of my life, just sitting there. And I think we were in that room waiting because they were running behind for like an hour. We were like, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. We had an ice cream day.
We did. Lots of rom-coms. Help take the mind off of it. Yeah.
But, I mean, I think being strong for one another and also vulnerable for one another really helped us get through that.
It's imperative to fully process what you went through on your own terms and as a collective unit, and be there for one another and support each other through it. That's the only way that you can make it through.
Yeah. I told you guys, she's Superwoman.
I'm very, very lucky. He calls me Superwoman all the time, but he's my Superman, so we're a good team.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's gone through that, or maybe even a friend who's gone through that? I think being more sensitive when you have a couple, because I mean, even to this day,
even this last weekend.
When's the baby coming? It's like, we're trying.
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, there are people out there who have multiple miscarriages back to back. And it's like, if you keep poking them and saying stuff like that, just please, please, please be more mindful of how you're speaking with people. Even if you think that they're trying and almost there and it's not a big deal, like, it is a big deal. If they're trying and it hasn't happened yet, there's probably a reason.
Well, and it's not even, and it's more than miscarriages. I mean, I have a few sets of, we have a few sets of friends who are going and getting like treatments, and they're trying to get pregnant. It's not like they lost the baby. So you have to understand that this whole idea of life, like what I've really taken away from this and the crash, is that there is no way that you cannot say that life is an absolute miracle and a blessing.
Oh, 100%.
And now that I realize just what life does, and you bringing a life into the world, and you affecting so many lives with your words and your actions, it's just, life is such a blessing, and we have to treat it as such.
And it's very fragile. It can be gone in a second, and we have to know that and remember that and go about our life with that in our minds and treat it accordingly.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is a good inaugural coming back to the final percent, but I felt I owed it to a few people to understand why I just kind of disappeared, and what a good way to come back to kind of have the person I just went through the last few months with, and what I went through, and what you went through, what we went through. Because I mean, and that's the other thing, guys. Everyone says there's two sides to every story, and that's just not true. Even if you think about just what I just talked about, it's what she went through, what I went through, and what we went through. There's three sides right there. And then there's what our friends went through, our parents went through. Give people the benefit of the doubt and try to empower people. I think one of the big things that, because I do a lot of speaking and stuff, and I've talked to Cayla about this, and I think one of the directions we're going to take our company and the final percent is, instead of this whole idea of influencing, and we're going to talk about this on a future podcast, but the whole idea of there's high school students now that are saying, I want to be an influencer. Yeah. And then you'll ask them, what do you want to influence? And they won't know. They just think that influencer is cool. And so I challenge everyone out there, instead of trying to influence something, I want you to try to impact something. And I want to change it from influencer to impactor. And I want you to go make an impact in someone's life, an impact in, and you have to also understand, making an impact in your life goes through your all your sphere of influence. There's your word if you really need it. But if you make an impact in your life, you're making an impact in everybody's life that touches yours. So really strive to become more and strive to be a better person. But I'll tell you, this woman next to me is my best friend, and I cannot imagine going through business or life with anybody else. And
amen.
And I appreciate you, and I love you, and I thank you for being you, being my wife, being the future mommy that you're going to be, a beautiful, wonderful, caring mother.
You're so sweet. I love you so much. We always end our podcast like this, like a bunch of mush, but that's just who we are. And I love it. And I love you. And just thank you for being my rock and my everything throughout all of this. There's literally no way I could have gotten through it without you. So.
I feel the exact same way. So
let's not get too mushy
all right,
here.
We're
okay?
done. We're done. We like each other. But guys, the final percent's back. And thanks for letting us go on hiatus. But we felt that we should let you know what had happened to make that happen, and be open and vulnerable about what we're going through, because it was a season. But I still think it was God's hand guiding us, and it was God's hand helping change us into the people that He knows that we can be, that we didn't know we had in us quite yet.
And who we need to be to get to the next season of our life.
Exactly. It's like that. I mean, if you want to hear God laugh, tell Him your plans. So,
yep.
All right. Well, guys, this has been the final percent, and I had the wonderful, beautiful Cayla Kimball. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're going to be coming at you, and thank you guys so much for being patient. Talk with you soon.